Good evening. Yes, we're back again, and it's February, and Pat's back as well.
Happy New Year, Your Honor. It is great to be back here, and we are starting off with a great show.
I understand you did not see your shadow on Friday, so we have an early spring, right?
Puxatawny Phil. I guess we are going to have an early spring, although I think I read where the groundhog's only right about 40% of the time, which is better than most politicians and most judges. Oh, wait, I mean politicians.
Shame on you. A lot of interesting things happening on the local scene, politically speaking.
And the national scene.
Mike Gable announced he's going to run for county commissioner, vacate a seat on the council.
That was occupied. He's going for a seat that was occupied by my nephew, Ben Shoulders.
Correct.
Ben's taking a job in the private sector. Mike Gable will be a great candidate. And Jonathan Weaver, whatever party he's in this week, filed and then didn't file and is now going to do weather or something.
Well, I think it's an indication of what a strong candidate Mike Gable is.
Absolutely. Guy that's lived on the east side, don't tell anybody, but is a legend, well-earned legend on the west side with his wrestling and football teams.
Got a national honor as Coach of the Year in high school football.
Well-deserved. You take that small school of males out there in modern day and win state championships, it's remarkable. But I got to tell you.
Yes, sir.
On the national scene, it almost makes me sentimental, Your Honor, for days when you had your thumb on the pulse of the party of the elephant, when we could mix it up. You're bipartisan, nonpartisan now, but I'm happy for that because the National Republican Party is bankrupt of any idea or any agenda. Here, the economy can't be their issue, so they want to make immigration the most stringent immigration bill ever to come out of a bipartisan Senate is about to come out, and it's dead on arrival in the House?
Patrick, I got to tell you, some of my Republican friends, or friends that are Republicans,
yes,
that are serving in Congress, have forgotten why they're there. They're there not to get their way every day. Neither are Democrats there to get their way every day, but to come together and to compromise. This piece of legislation, I was reading about this morning. It's not perfect, but man, it covers many bases.
Well, if there are 5,000, it closes the borders. Right. It funds taken from 5 years deportation and amnesty proceedings to 6 months by law. It does not everything, but a lot of things that we have talked about. And I will tell you, my party is guilty of the same thing, but they have quit governing. Congratulations and hats off, by the way, to lapdog Larry Bouchon, who finally has decided, no one will know whether he's been there or not, to vacate that empty seat. Larry, you voted 70 times to repeal Obamacare. All of you that like having pre-existing conditions covered, send a thank you note to Larry for his decision not to go back.
Congressman Bouchon's been a good congressman, great in constituency services, and has served this community well. But here's the thing, talk about that race. I have not yet to hear a name of a prominent Democrat to run for that office.
I announced, wait a minute, that was if he voted for the articles. The local election is beginning to shape up, but how about this governor's race? Mike Braun, here's a message. You make me want to puke with your commercial that says, I'm Donald Trump's boy. Can you imagine in your lifetime, somebody would say, I've been endorsed by a guy who has 91 felony counts pending.
Well, it's an interesting times we're in right now.
Go, Suzanne. I'm not going to cross the aisle probably, but man, I hope you kick his butt. We have a great show today. I think a Shively and Shoulders first for our 5 million viewers. In just a second, when we come back, how about the first in-depth interview with your mayor, the Honorable Stephanie Terry.
And we're back, and joining us is the Honorable Stephanie Terry, Mayor of the City of Evansville. Glad to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
Congratulations. You know, you were the last time you were on here, you were asking them for votes. They heard you.
They did.
Every time I see a newly elected person in office, I think about Robert Redford at the end of the movie, The Candidate. She's too young. You remember that.
I remember the line is, now what?
Yeah, what do we do now?
What do we do now?
I got elected, what do we do now? But you have a 100-day plan.
Yes, sir.
Talk about what that plan said you're going to do and what you've done, because you've already spent 30 days of it.
You're right, and it's been a busy but productive first 30 days. And I think our top priorities for this first 100 was, number one, build relationships and make sure that we solidify many of the community partners that come alongside city government to
Like
make things
Shively
work.
Shoulders.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Our 5 million viewers.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then, but the top of the list is really building our team. And I think we've done a good job in assembling that team that's going to work for the next 4 years. And then the final piece is just begin to address some of the issues that we talked about during the campaign trail, but we know that are still relevant today.
When you introduced your chief of police and your fire chief, you alluded to there'll be an announcement later on the legal department.
Mm-hmm.
Have I missed that announcement?
You have not missed that announcement.
So what's going on?
Were you applying for the job?
We're getting close. And really, what we're doing is shifting to building an in-house law department, like many other cities have done across the state, but even in other areas. And so we'll be announcing our corporate counsel, and then looking at other departments as well.
That's an important job. I have to tell you, I've just finished a book, and I had no idea. Frankly, they don't teach this, and they should, called Fever in the Heartland, written about the reformation of the Klan in the North. And guess where the first outpost, where it started in the North? The city of Evansville. D.C. Stevenson had rooms at the Vendome. I bring this up to say, almost exactly 100 years ago today. His picture must be there where your pictures are over there. The mayor of Evansville, elected in 1926, was Herbert Mayles. When asked, he said he was a member of the Klan. Now here we are, 100 years later, during Black History Month. I just have to say, this is just a exciting
Good time for Evansville.
It truly is.
But
Think about that. 100 years ago, a member of the Klan was mayor.
I want the mayor to comment on that, but I'm tired of lately seeing the media, especially our local media, looking at the past rather than focusing on the accomplishments of the future.
True.
Or not the future, the present, where we are right now.
And the day should come when we just have a history month.
Exactly.
It shouldn't be,
Yeah.
but,
Right.
but we've got a
Exactly.
lot of catching up to do.
You're right.
So talk about how that history is affecting what you're doing every day.
It's number one, it's a humbling spot to be in. And I count it a privilege that the citizens of Evansville had enough confidence in me to do this job. And so I want to do the very best that I can. And more importantly, it fuels me every day to know that there's a little girl or a little boy that looks just like me that's proud to say, my mayor looks like me. And I received a photo the other day from the Children's Center for Dance over at Joshua Academy. And my photo is on the wall to inspire the dancers that there's more that you can do. And just if you work hard and be persistent, you can accomplish anything you want.
That's so true. Let's go to what the judge brought up and start with your 100 days. You've appointed a police chief and a fire chief, hugely important to all of us.
Yes.
Safety and fire and emergency, that sort of thing. Talk a little bit about their background and why you made those selections.
Well, on the fire side, Chief Knight, he's been with the department for over 20 years now. He was last as the health and safety director for the department, and he's just well organized. When I tell you, he came to the table when we had our conversations with plans about what he's going to do as it relates to talent, retention and training and development for the firefighters, but then also just organizational-wise, how we can create greater efficiencies in the department. So I was really excited to sit down with Tony and look forward to the leadership he's going to provide. And then on the flip side, you have our police department. And, there's usually a negative overtone on a national level around police departments. But, what really drew me to Philip Smith is his personality, his welcomeness. And as we think about community policing and engagement in the community at a higher level, he really models that everywhere he goes. And I think he's going to be a great asset for the leadership of the department.
There's a lot more to policing than just enforcing the law.
Absolutely.
Community policing is the way to go.
Absolutely. But even, you
And
know,
he knows Phil knows all about that.
he does. And I think we're just going to continue to enhance that work. But in addition to that, we've got to look at the root causes of crime,
Right,
too.
exactly.
I mean, there's from poverty and housing, all those
And
things.
mental health issues.
Play a factor. Absolutely.
You did something that no mayor, I think, has ever done. You formed this interfaith council. What was your thinking behind that? And who are the members?
So we have a pretty diverse group of faith leaders in our community. You think one of the things that I really wanted to be sure is that we utilize every partner that we possibly can. Our faith community is already addressing issues around housing. They're feeding the hungry. And so, you know, using them as a sounding board and as advisory board to be sure that we meet the needs of people was important for me, and that's why I assembled that group. But also, I want to be sure that I have a strong spiritual circle around me. While I, you know, worship at Memorial Baptist Church, you know, I want to be sure that I'm learning about the diversity in our community, and our faith community represents part of that as well.
And in terms of the homeless, every community is faced with that. I was happy to learn the rescue missions plans out there on Covert, whatever that facility is, 77 beds, I think it will be for women and children with great security. I think things are looking good for Evansville, and I'm glad you're in charge. Tell me this, everybody that takes a new job, I don't care if it's you became a judge and you're there the first day or you became mayor. There are surprises.
There are.
There are, oh, I didn't know that moments. Let's talk about that.
Oh, gosh. In my first 30 days, let's see, I think the greatest surprise was just the pace of the day. There's an expectation to have the mayor's attention on a level that I never imagined. And so us figuring that out and balancing that, I think I can hear former Mayor Winnicky telling me, figure out time management immediately. And he said, I don't think I ever did a good job of that, but our team is really trying to figure out how best to utilize my time in the most effective way.
Yeah.
Let me bring up another challenge that probably you weren't expecting. You get this letter from the county commissioner saying, we want to fire the plan commission director and the plan commission attorney. We want you on board, Mayor. What's your response to that?
My response has been, give me some time to assess the situation. It's not fair to me to make that kind of decision without, you know, adequate information. And so I've said for all along that I was going to establish a blue ribbon commission, and with the very intent of looking at, on the city side, you know, what's halting us doing effective housing and business development. And so we're going to take some time to hear from developers and contractors and, you know, commercial around the issues. What's slowing our process? What are we doing well? What are we not doing well? Where can we find ways to have some improvement so that we can continue to turn dirt in the city? And so that's the next step for me before making any judgment on, you know, the performance of productivity of that department.
Every job or every political issue always seems like it comes down to money a lot of times. And Russ Lloyd has served the city honorably as mayor and in that controller position. But I know you've hired someone or selected someone who's got some money crunching numbers. Any surprises, and what shape is the city in fiscally and financially? And when do you get to send a first budget to the council?
Sure. Actually, I want to piggyback on the last question before I jump into that. But as the mayor, I don't have authority to change that department. The board does.
And that's where you need to get the law changed.
I do not have that authority. But in terms of, you know, our overall, you know, financial position, we actually are going to do our own fiscal review, and we've identified a company that will come and do that work. Our controller, this is his second day officially. Russ has been in the transition with us as Robert has come on, you know, coming from Henderson, Kentucky. And so once we get him settled in, we will start that process. Right now, we feel like we're in a good position. We'll begin to start the budget preparations probably in March, early for us, because this is our first opportunity, but it will definitely align with the vision and priorities we have for the city.
I realize that this session of the General Assembly is a short session. No budget issues will be considered, no money issues. But does the city of Evansville, through you, have a wish list for this session?
No, not in particularly. But our conversations with, you know, our state legislators really this session have really been forward-thinking. as we think about the opportunities for downtown development and other business opportunities, that's where our focus has been, and we hope that down the road there's going to be some support for that work.
So after the first 100 days, you're into a budget cycle. For those of us that live and work and jog downtown, can you give me just an ETA on when there won't be a damn bucket or street closed in the downtown area?
Oh gosh, I don't know that I could promise you that. Good. Sometimes development's good. So
I'm looking for a political promise here. I can't get one.
No, I
Well,
can't
in
do
fairness
it.
to the mayor, all those entities that are tearing the streets up aren't under her control.
That's true. But I think what we can do is communicate a little bit better so that
Yeah.
you know how to navigate.
In the campaign, there was a lot of talk about crime and this, that, and the other. And I know you appoint a police chief and you do that sort of thing. What are you learning in the job about what we might be able to do better in terms of policing and safety?
Yeah. Well, I think, one, we want to be sure that we have vacant slots filled. That's one, having enough manpower to do the work. I think we want to continue to be sure that we're out in the community. We're doing simple things like making sure that lighting is appropriate in our parks. Our police chief just announced a new partnership with the Parks Department, and we're going to have a required liaison that's overseeing our parks and ensuring that there's a presence there where we know that there's a lot of crime activity occurring. And so we're doing those small things in addition to just looking at our overall model, how we can continue to enhance community policing, but then working in partnership with our social sector to address many things like mental health and housing and so forth.
There are so many issues on your plate. As you 30 days into the office, what do you see as the biggest challenges right now facing the city?
I think the biggest issues still results around how we can continue to uplift every family in this community. I think we're going to continue to see crime. We're going to continue to see people struggling until we can really make sure that we raise the quality of life for everyone. And that's really why, for me, one of the top priorities is neighborhood revitalization and looking at, again, how do we invest in the people in the most meaningful way, and that's ensuring that they're housed, ensuring that, from a health and well-being, that their needs are getting met, and that we have the adequate professionals in our community to address those needs. And then also just improving what we have, taking care of, the very amenities that, bring life to our community, whether that's our parks, whether that's our roads. We want to do the best job that we really can.
Along those lines, speaking of parks, we have a lot of acreage of parks to maintain.
We do.
And we still haven't gotten the Roberts Park project off dead center. What do you see the future of that park?
Well, that's still to be determined, let me just say that. But I will say there is some work that will be starting, even in the next 30 days, the connector road, offload expressway, that work will start. And then there will be also some work for the entryway into Wesselman Park and creating, something that's going to be more safe for those driving down Bakey Road there.
Many of our elected officials have chosen their inaugurations to send a message. John Kennedy had Robert Frost, Maya Angelou reading a poem. And I absolutely salute you, Mayor, for staging yours in the auditorium at Bosse High School. You're sitting with two Evansville Harrison grads. This town has been blessed, I'm kind of partial, with a great school system. And I just think it was important for you to go to those roots. And in the campaign, you talked about what you could do. Now, in New York, the mayor runs the schools. Here, you don't have really any kind of, as you said about the area plan, you don't have that kind of control, but you can be a partner. Have you reached out? Is that starting?
Absolutely. Dr. Smith and I have sat down and already started to talk about what that partnership looks like. We still have the plan to develop a mayor's education roundtable. He'll be a part of that group along with a number of others, because you're right, my role is to be a champion for education and ensuring that kids have the best, the best education they possibly can receive, but also that they have the supports that they need around them. And it goes back to safe and clean neighborhoods, housing, all those things are important, for them to be successful in our community and beyond. And so I'm going to assemble that group with the commitment that if we're going to say we're going to continue to attract businesses to this community, retain talent, we've got to do a lot more, and we've got to do it in a collaborative manner, which there's already a lot of great work already happening. We just want to be a convener to say, okay, how can we work even greater to ensure, again, the success of all children?
Last year, sort of moving from public education to higher education, U of E received this incredible grant.
Yes.
I forget the exact name of it is, but
Promise Neighborhood.
there you go. I mean, that is a huge program. A lot of resources dedicated, basically to take young people while they're in grade school, focusing on a higher education path. How do you see the city fitting into that program?
Yeah, so it's this whole cradle to career concept.
Right.
And number one, it's going to be transformative, I think, for the neighborhoods that they're going to put focus in. But when you talk about housing, it likely will be a piece of that. To support services for youth and centers and various neighborhoods. I think that will be another opportunity to expand that work. Many of the organizations we're already funding as a city, I think they will be partners in the development that we'll be able to do in those areas. But then be ensured that, again, it's easy to do development in those areas. Jacobsville is a good example, but we want to continue to look at, again, what are the restrictions or things that might be kind of blocking progress in those underdeveloped areas, because again, this is a huge opportunity for us to grow.
In regards to your relationship with the city council, we've had various mayors over the years. I know that Frank McDonald Sr., he was always in his office across the hall. Occasionally he'd walk into the chambers and sit there and dare those people to vote against him.
Oh, gosh.
That doesn't appear to be your style, but
Not at all.
what's going to be your approach dealing with the council?
Well, just as it has been, I think conversations and relationships are key to really how well and effectively can work together. And so we've already announced and shared with them, my door is open, number one, an hour or so before council meetings, and then it's available for city council members to come in with any questions they have. We're also, I think I've already sent out like 2 updates in this 30-day time period. So periodically, we're going to send updates, what's happening from the mayor's lens and how they can be a partner in that. But more than anything, I'm going to be sure that I stay in good communication and have an open door for them.
Our last 45 seconds, we needed an hour show.
Yeah, we do.
But our last 45 seconds, you're going back to traveling city halls.
We are.
So you're taking your office to the people. For our viewers, all 3 million, you want to be their mayor. How do they best share their needs, their wants, their communication with your office?
Sure. So we do have on our city website a place where they can share their comments and ideas, their dreams, but also we encourage them to come to our traveling city halls. It's an opportunity for them to not only talk with me, but our department heads. And then we still have our teamevansville.com website up, and there's also another place for you to share what's on your mind. And then we hope that you'll follow us on social media. I think Joe welcomes the daily messages that we get from citizens about things that are important to them. And so again, we're here to serve the community, and we want to be sure that they have an opportunity to speak into the vision and forward progress of our city.
We're all invested in your success.
Thank you.
We wish you the absolute very best luck. And when you need, like head of the park board, or you could run the water department.
Oh, goodness.
So if we want to apply for some of these gigs.
Yeah.
There's ways you can contact our mayor. Thank you, the Honorable Stephanie Terry.
Thank you
Mayor
so
of
much for
Evansville.
having me.
When we come back, I'll take one more shot at Patrick.
Lloyd Winnicky is a friend of mine for years before he was mayor. I think his 12 years were a great time for the city of Evansville. But I got to tell you, Judge, I am so excited about the Terry administration.
I am too, and I want to go back to this plan commission thing, because many people think that's a mundane kind of issue.
You used to be there a lot. That was kind of your
They're one of my
legal
favorite-
practice
one of
when
my
you were
favorite-
a
one of my fa-
civilian.
One of my favorite defendants. But seriously, things in that office haven't changed in 40 years. And we need to change the enabling legislation. Certainly the chief executive of the city of Evansville should have input as to who that director of the planning commission, who makes these rules and regulations, determines how many parking spots. Those things like trivial, but they determine how this community is going to grow, how it's going to prosper. And I hope, Mayor Terry just said this a while ago, she's going to get in touch with developers, people that actually invest in this community and find out what their needs are. And I think she's off to the right way to resolve.
But as she said, that's not under her power to change that leadership, correct?
No, but she's got the ears of a lot of members of the General Assembly.
Sure.
We can change that enabling law.
Well, she's had her first 100 days, and now we'll see how the next 3 years and 10 months go. 9 months, I guess.
They fly by. Now, once again, reminding you that Friday's the deadline to file for
The 8th District?
8th District.
You know, I said if he votes for articles of impeachment against Joe Biden, I'd run, but I don't think he's going to do that. Larry, we're going to miss you, pal. Of course, we've never known you were there, but we'll miss you.
As much as you maligned him over these months, we revitalized his show.
Yeah.
You owe it to him to seek that office. And you know, those who criticize are not willing to step forward and do the job, you know.
True. And maybe my campaign pledge is I will not vote to repeal Obamacare. I will leave a woman's uterus to her own business. I kind of think that's her business. But Larry and I could probably find some common ground.
Probably could.
This was a great show. Thanks all 3 million of you for viewing Shively and Shoulders. See you next month.